Well, hello, this is Brandon Farr, and welcome to our series on building construction. And here's the question today is how do you choose the right builder for your home? Now, we're licensed builders. We've been doing this for 15 years, but just because we're here doesn't mean we can serve you. But we do know how to guide you to finding the right builder for your home in your area, because it's actually not that complicated. There's no real mystery to it if you orient yourself the right way. Now, we're going to discuss kind of the four categories that have to do with you to help clarify your role. But to start with, I want you to understand something. Your relationship, I'm going to use the word relationship. It's a professional relationship. The one that you have with your builder is critical, and it's all about communication. We talk about communication in terms of spouses, relational communication, but it's no different with your builder. And if you don't see that up front, it stands to produce consequences for you down the road, because a project lasts 1 to 2 years on average, and supply chains, COVID, we've watched timelines, average completion in Kelowna where we are stretched from 14 months to well over 2 years, simply because people can't get windows or washers and dryers and things like that. So if we're building some of them large, elaborate homes that are truly like estates, 4 or 5 years under construction. So you need to understand that whoever you're committed to build your home, you're with them for the long haul, and it's going to require thousands of decisions. And there's a real thing called decision fatigue. It's easy when you're sitting at home as a homeowner going, I'd love to have a view of the lake or a view of vineyards, and want a walkout basement and a hot tub over there, and the things that you imagine, and you dream about the scents. But in reality, you got to decide, what color faucets and which type of faucet and what type of sink and where you want it and what height you want it and how many you want it in the space. It's like the nuances of decisions and what type of blinds and whether they come from the bottom or to the top, and it's real. It's time consuming, and if you're not comfortable with that, it can put a lot of strain on your project, on your builder, on your trades, and on your marriage. And I'm saying this because the reality is building homes can be really hard relationally, even in your personal life. And I've had conversations with colleagues that they developed multiple businesses, they've retired extremely wealthy, they have young kids, they move here and they build a home, and it's the closest they've ever come to divorce. Building a home together is what strained their marriage almost to the breaking point. Not years of entrepreneurship and the risks and the things associated with that. It was building a home, and that's because there's so much decision, there's so many emotions that are tied into that, and so much of the work that you need to do isn't just communicating your hopes, dreams, desires to your partner, to your builder. It's to clarify internally and then communicate externally your assumptions and your expectations and also your limitations, so that because if those are internal, nobody can understand those. And that's why communication just needs to underpin all that we're going to talk about, because that's the part you and I, if I'm a professional builder and you're a client, we both have roles to play in that. It's a two-way transaction or an interaction, and hopefully it's not transactional. You pay me enough to care about you, so hopefully it's not that. Now that's why we're going to talk about why your builder should have your best interests in mind and things like this. But I want to drive that home, because whatever category you're in, whether you're someone that likes to build things quickly and cheaply or wants them done right no matter the cost, whoever you get to build, you're going to be talking to them, trusting them, relying on them, and exchanging information with them lots. So find somebody that works for you. Some people, everybody has different communication styles, so there's not to say the right builder, even if there could be a bunch of people in this category, a bunch of people in this category, doesn't mean they're all going to like the same builder. There needs to be flow. So when you're meeting people, once you've narrowed down your category, it'll help you can find, Google search for builders in your area, and it comes up like this, but who do I choose? And you can start to narrow in and then have some meaningful interviews with those builders and their previous clients to get a sense of whether or not there's good flow there. So stepping into this, of course, your builder needs to have the necessary credentials. and the necessary credentials, there's experience that goes into that. In BC and British Columbia, you need to be a licensed professional builder. You need to carry a new home warranty. Of course, there's insurance requirements. Wherever you are, there's also authorities having jurisdiction, and that's like the really technical term for people that have the ability to say no in your building world, like building inspectors, engineers, things like that. And so whoever you get to build obviously needs to have the prerequisite qualifications to justify them building your home. And yes, I have seen people that trusted somebody who was actually borrowing their cousin's builder's license, and so they weren't actually qualified. This happens in other domains as well. Just you need to do your due diligence. Hey, I really like you. Can you just send me your credentials and make sure you can find them on their registries or whatever your jurisdiction holds the directory. Make sure that you're credentialed. Fine, got that. Your builder needs to understand your vision, and this is super important. Again, so you've narrowed yourself down into the category of builder that you're looking to interview, and they need to get your vision. So we talk lots on this channel about high performance homes because that's just what we're passionate about, having deep conversations about it. So if you come to a builder that's like, hey, I want to build a net zero home, and you're like, you really need that? Or are you like, hey, I want to build an elaborate mansion, and they're just super passionate about tiny homes. Like, well, you really need that much square. Like, they need to get where you're coming from. They need to understand how you want to use the space. Is this a space where you will privately reside with your spouse and that's it, or is this a space where your kids and your grandkids are coming over and you want to be able to participate with lots of people in the space, parties, venues, inside, outside, respective nature, integration of outdoor, indoor living spaces, but also not just like, that's the design thing. People get, do they understand my building plans? It's not about that. Do they understand how you want to use the space? Because there's lots of variations in how you assemble things in relationship to what the owner wants, and your blueprint doesn't always highlight all the specifications required. But if a builder gets where you're going to go, you know what, I think you want this over here, and if I were you, I would expand this a little bit and open it up this way, just because he understands how you want the space. Like, that's he or she, because there's fantastic licensed builders. This is not gender exclusive. They're just so you understand there's space for you, and you need to find somebody that gets you. And this also needs to trickle back to your designer. A little caveat, a lot of what we're talking about here can apply to the design space as well, because your vision needs to be manifest on paper or a rendering, like a 3D rendering, in relationship to what you want at the end. You're the client, you're paying for it. You should get what you want. Like, come on, you're spending a lot of money and a lot of time building these homes. So make sure you get somebody that connects, because on top of understanding your vision, they also need to have your best interests in mind. And I'm saying that because so many decisions get made in real time, and if you're the build your home as quickly and cheaply as possible person, your builder, it's starting to rain one day or starting to snow in Canada. Do we pay the crew to tarp everything off and cover it up and seal everything up? Well, that's a budget line. There's going to be extra expense, and this is on the fly here. We're having a video conversation. I wish we were talking in person, because then we could hear your vision and we could talk about this in more nuance. But here we are. And it's like just realizing that in that moment, that builder's deciding whether or not to cover something up based on whether or not they have your best interest in mind. And if they do, they'll understand intuitively or through conversation whether or not you would prefer to have the trade stop working and cover everything up to safeguard things, or whether you just don't care if it gets wet and gets a little off color or something like that, because you're just going to bury it anyways and just keep going. I don't know if that's the most elegant example, but it's just a real one. Like, your builder is going to make decisions real time in terms of orienting people and materials and sub-trades. And they want, if they're spending your money, especially discretionary money, or choosing to not spend it, again, there's that trust piece of, are you doing this because it works for your budget on what you quoted, or are you doing this because this aligns with the vision that we as clients have for our home? And that's super, super important, because part of the risks of getting super planny up front is you get super rigid, and when life in the real world gets complex, you're stuck with the rigidity of the plan, which can actually lead to some compromises on site in real time. So best interest really matters. You need to make sure they have the capacity to deliver on your design. Capacity meaning if you want a super elaborate net zero home, as an example, and they've never built one, or if you want your home built and the builder's super busy and they've just lost one of their main project managers, are they going to be able to do it is the question. Even if they're a really nice guy, really nice girl, lady, do they have the ability to deliver on your project? And this is going to be, there's some nuance in here and some discernment whether or not they have the trades, the experience, the financial capacity, and the bandwidth to deliver on your design. So take that into consideration as you're going through this. And this is the really important one here that I'm going to subconsciously, because I think this matters the most in light of all this, and it matters for the exchange between both builder and client. Is the builder capable of handling unexpected challenges? And I was writing a blog on this, and I realized I'm asking some really questions that can be perceived negatively, and like they're framed from a negative perspective, like handling unexpected challenges. That's not fluffy. That's not, oh wow, can you see what I'm imagining here? No, it's like when things are going good, everything's good. It's when relationships, everything's good in a relationship. But when things are unexpectedly happen, that's when there's challenges and there's tension. That's when the rubber meets the road. That's when you find out what the capacity a person has or the substance of the relationship itself. So it's like let's just go in there, and just look at it without prejudice, but honestly, and in a sense of reflection. So is your builder capable of handling unexpected challenges is a great place to start, because it would be naive to think that in the course of 2 years and $1 million or more in terms of expense, there's not going to be something unforeseen. Like, come on, this is just let's just put ourselves in their shoes and go, well, what happens when things don't go according to plan? When your preferred plumber decides that he can't do the project and drops the ball last minute, or when you get offered another project, and so your builder gets offered a second opportunity to make, he's in business and he's got to feed his family. So what if he then decides to divide his time, and what happens then, and things like this? How do you maintain high quality communication so that you can navigate through the unexpected pieces is really the question on the table. And again, that takes a you part too. It's easy to go, well, I'm paying you, you should do it. But coming to any relationship with a bunch of expectations and then outsourcing and assigning them to somebody isn't going to work long term. It's just not realistic. So this is a big one. I put it down here all about communication. Can you respect and can you be respected by? Like, can he respect you? Can she respect you? Can you respect him? Saying this backwards. Can you respect them, and can they respect you? That's what I'm trying to say. And what I want, fumbling over the nuance there, is that it goes both ways. It's easy to say, hi, I'm Brandon. I can extend respect to you as you're struggling to make the decision on which color paint you want on the walls, and I can be considerate of you in the process. But then there's another part of the relationship: is can you be considerate of me? And I'm saying this in genuine reflection. I'm watching lots of clients. It's like sometimes the owner doesn't have the ability to respect their builder. They've lost that ability, and our business has been built around fixing new homes that break. So that's why we're resilient infrastructure specialists. We know where things fall apart. It's like that's true. And the things that I hear the owners say about the builder, it's jarring. It's absolutely jarring. And it's evident to me that those homeowners have lost the ability to respect their builder. And so what do you think happens to communication when all the builder's picking up from you is a sense of criticism or distrust or fine, all the things? And I'm not being hard on you. I'm just saying, find somebody that when you see them on site, you're not thinking, oh, what the hell are they doing, wasting my money, so much standing around. That they produce that inside of you, or they produce, Oh, there's Sally, my builder. She's amazing. Oh my God, I'm so thankful we got her. I mean, in this market, like if it wasn't for Sally, my dream wouldn't be coming to reality. Sally, how are you? You know, like that. There's such a difference in the dynamic. And I wanted to put it out here, and I fumbled through the discussion of it. These are all one-take things anyways. So, you know, whether you're tuning in video or podcast, this is just real, and it's we're walking through this in this conversation because this really matters. Okay, anyways, we're gonna move on here to the client categories because this all stands. This needs to be the foundation as you're jumping into client categories. Whether or not this is you, I can't tell you what this is. I often, when I want to know what I am in a category, you're so much more complex than 4 categories. This is not meant to assign or confine you. This is meant to instigate a conversation and guide you down a path, okay? So help as a clarity tool, it's not a confining tool, but I often look in the rearview mirror to go, hey, what do I typically prefer? You know, and so I broke this down, built as quickly and as cheaply as possible. This is often for people that view houses as commodities, as distinct from viewing a house as a home. Let's just get it done. I want it up. I want to do it. I want to move in, or I just want to flip it. You know, I got a piece of property. I'm subdividing. I want to put it up and put it back on the market. Someone who wants to have a clear and structured plan and budget before the project begins. I hear from lots of people. It's like, hey, I got a limited amount of financing. Cost of construction is really high. I want to make sure I can afford this project. I want to like basically iron this thing out before we even begin. There's another category of person that I've seen over the years is like, hey, they're okay with having a guiding vision for the project that evolves as the project unfolds. It's like, hey, I want to know I'm building a 3,000 square foot house on this lot with these things, the view of the lake and the things, but I don't need to know exactly what the finished price will be. You know, you can, is it $200 a square foot, kind of a ballpark? Okay, I know we're going to be in this kind of range, and we'll work towards it. And through the process, I'll pick whether I'm doing really expensive flooring or budget flooring, and we can walk through that as we go. I don't need to thoroughly understand it. I just want to get going and perhaps participate a little bit in the process. And then there's another category, which is none of these are better than the others. They're just different. Somebody that wants things done right, even if it costs a little more time and a little more money. You know, because if you have a time pressure, you know, if you're building your estate and your forever home, perhaps you want to spend a little bit more time on getting it done properly, and you'd prefer to wait for the right drywaller as distinct from the guy that's available now. Quality be what it may, you know. So just saying that. So once we break it into 4 categories, you get to see where you are. There are some risks to each of these. I think, you know, and I'm going to talk about them because we're in the video and I'd rather you have the information. If this is too long, you can move right on. You don't need to like, click, subscribe, or anything like that. It's like, this is information for you. If it's valuable, keep going. If it's not, it's great. It's nice talking to this point. So, hey, this is all about, if you get it done as cheaply as possible, you're going to make compromises the whole way through. You're probably not going to get an experienced builder because the expectations of time and cost are just going to drive high quality builders and high quality trades away. So you're going to make a compromise in terms of experience and price. You're going to pay less money and get less experience. You just need to take responsibility for that if that's your expectations going in. There's often frustrations and delays in the process when you're dealing with inexperience. But what I've seen most consistently is that after the house is built, you have the occupancy, you moved in, and that's when you discover all the things that you didn't see and on your final walkthrough or whatever, and you're kind of stuck with the poor faucets and the loud fridge and the squeaky floor and the things that just are unfinished in the house that nobody spent the time or money to address because the context wasn't set up for them to do that. So just be warned. Be warned. If you want to have a clear and structured plan and budget before you're in place, you know, this really narrows in on large volume builders. This is, I would say I would direct a client like this to go, hey, you need to find the people that are building hundreds of homes a year, at least dozens, because they're going to have a very clear structured building process. You're going to probably talk to a sales team, and they're going to then talk you over or pass you over to an estimating team, and then maybe even ultimately a project manager. And you may or may not even deal directly with the builder. These, because the project manager might be the person that you're talking to all the time because They'll tell you how the project's going in terms of timelines. They'll also ask you to make decisions around colors and fixture styles and whatnot. You're going to receive the benefit of their smooth process. You're going to likely have a really clear understanding around the total cost of the project, because they're going to give you options. And it'll be between this one, and this one. You choose. They're easily understood. And that's great if you want the plan ironed out. What you sacrifice in that exchange is flexibility, adaptability. You're going to get what they offered you, one of three, and if you want this to be your home, you're probably not going to get that sense. It's probably going to be very similar to a lot of other homes in the neighborhood, especially if you're buying a development lot, and this is where you walk down a street and it's like the same house side by side, except the garage is on other sides. You get that. And that's just how these builders who are building homes as commodities to get on the market, the complexity of owners choosing a bunch of different things doesn't work for their business model, because they need to understand the project to de-risk it so that they can offer it to you at the fixed price that you're negotiating. The risk here is that you're going to feel like a number, because you're one of many. And also the time to get back to emails. If you have a project manager that's dealing with 7 new homes or more, you might not be at the top of their list, and you might have some questions that go unanswered, and you're also layers removed from the people on site. So if you got a question as to why the builder built that, you got to go to the property manager, talk to the builder's got to talk to trades got to go back to the builder. You're dealing with these chains of communication rather than just having a dialogue with the person that did it. Again, so there's a bit of a trade-off. You're also, there's a risk here, and timelines is a thing that's a risk in all these. I just want to acknowledge that. It's not like this is the worst timeline. It's just that, hey, listen, if they got a list of people that are doing plumbing and their plumbers are preoccupied on the 6 other homes they're building, or you're waiting until that's done. You don't have the luxury of just inserting another trade into their process, because it's a structured process. So that means that there can be delays, or if the type of washer, dryer, dishwasher that they typically spec doesn't come in because it's back ordered, you're waiting for it. There's just less flexibility there. So just acknowledge that up front. If you want things done right, we're going to go here. If you have number 3, if you have a guiding vision for the project that evolves as the project unfolds, you have lots of opportunity here to work with great builders. I don't want this to sound like an ad hoc person. It's like if you're dealing with a smaller team, a builder might work right out of his truck. Like, that's his office. He's on site all day. He might do one project at a time. And this is his thing. He probably doesn't have a huge admin staff to pre-qualify pricing and back and forth in terms of the estimating piece, but he thoroughly understands the construction. He does a good job. You've talked to some references. They're in good standing. I think you're clear to go here if you have a working relationship. This is probably the most flexible of all of them in terms of, hey, if you want to do the painting and things like that, I'm going to say this builder profile might have space for you to help, because it is less structured. And just be aware of that. So then the flexibility also comes with some shortcomings, in the sense that there's probably areas of the project that may get bogged down over time, especially if you're dealing with a smaller team. It's a lot of responsibility. And if you and I reflect on the course of our year, sometimes a couple weeks, they just work is just harder, and we still have all the complexities of our real life that are involved and surround what we do for work. So your builder is no exception. Weather does take a toll on a team, especially if it's cold or rainy outside. So understanding that those are just real factors that affect all building trades, but particularly if you're dealing with a smaller firm. I love small firms. Just acknowledge that. Now, if you want somebody that's done right, even if it costs a little bit more money, takes a little bit more time, you have a lot of options. You're probably dealing with an experienced builder that has. That probably what differentiates this is you want pricing. The common thing is go get 3 quotes. In this category, maybe even this one, the answer is no. I got John's my finishing carpenter, Dylan's my drywaller, Dean's my plumber, Travis is my electrician. That's it. It's quiet because I trust them. It's not If you want me to go get 3 quotes, then you probably want to find somebody else. We can do quotes on materials, but not quotes on trades, because we talk about communication, mutual respect. I mean, this is what experienced builders do over years, is they guarantee outcomes with the quality of people that they employ on projects they really care about. It's not to say there's no flexibility on, drywaller 1 versus drywaller 2, or electrician 1 or electrician 2. It's not to say it's so rigid. It's just that, I'm saying this personally, I don't go get multiple quotes. I go get Dylan to come look at the project. That's what I do. It's like, Dylan, tell me what it's going to cost to do this. Why? Because I trust fair pricing, but more than that, I trust timelines and quality, because that's how the client is satisfied with a super thoughtful. Again, we're talking just the type of client profile that we're looking at is environmentally conscious people that want high quality homes that last 150 years. It's like, it doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be overly elaborate or expensive. It's just people that care about homes in a deeper way than just a commodity. A home is a home, and there's a multi-generational element to it, and they're just thinking in those lines. I mean, so I don't want to risk outsourcing trades, because that introduces risks to the project. All that to say, doesn't mean you can't. There's different nuances in this. If you have a seasoned, experienced builder, they might have a collection of trades that they deal with, but ultimately you're going to get the benefit of their network. And so I would interview this builder by asking for referrals to previous clients, and how was the building process, and throughout the whole process of interviewing builders, and say, hey, how was the communication? Was, like, when you're talking to their clients, was the communication proactive, or was it late, or was it vague? Was it inconsistent? What part of the project did the builder get bogged down in? Did it were you anywhere close to your initial projections on timelines? Did the energy model or energy utilization at the end of the home meet the energy modeling at the beginning of the home? Which means, did they build according to plan? If you care about energy efficiency or conscious construction, that really matters. Because if the spreadsheet at the beginning says you were going to hit 1 air change per hour, but the blower test at the end says you hit 2.6, it's too late. It's in your walls. It's like the holes are buried and sealed up. So, buried, not sealed up, but concealed. So these are the sort of interview questions that help me orient to whether or not they're high quality. And the same thing can be applied to trades. And then that question is like, hey, when things didn't go well, great interview question for reference, and things didn't go well, how was that handled? When there were unexpected things that I, the owner, brought to the table, how did the builder respond? Were they defensive and frustrated, or were they understanding and professional, even if firm? And were they able to say no? Because sometimes the owner, the client, doesn't have the best interest of the project in mind. They got an image of something they saw on a social media page that will actually compromise the project in totality, and the builder needs to say, hey, no, that works on TikTok, but that doesn't work here. And was the builder able to have these exchanges in a professional manner? And what happens when something on the job site didn't go according to plan that was their fault or their trade's fault? How did they handle it? I know one builder, it's like they installed some really nice stonework on the outside, and I think it was manufactured stone, and it didn't work in the hot sun of the Okanagan, and it all cracked. And to the builder's credit, the owner was pissed, because she goes out to her finished, like, it's all finished, it's beautiful, it's polished black, and just went like, what the heck? And they spent a lot of money, like lots of money on this. And the builder, because of his integrity, just said, you know what, that's 100% our fault. Now, did the builder, it was all subcontracted to a stone company that did the stone, and did the builder have to work out, the process of getting that exchanged? Yes, but the builder looked at the client and said, I'm sorry, that we should have known better. We should have known that stone wouldn't work in the black in the sun, and it basically just fractured, like spider cracked everywhere. And he took care of it. So regardless of what the trade does, now I might work out a deal with the trade to get this sorted out at cost, fine. But I'm covering it anyways. And the owner wasn't charged for any of that work. And I'm like, that's an example of a builder that takes responsibility for their role, and that's a big out-of-pocket expense on this estate. So that's an example of somebody that you want, because it's on your team. Because when it doesn't go well, that's when the substance of the people, substance of the client, really comes to the forefront. So high performance, I'm putting a note in here just because it matters. If you care about high performance buildings, it requires a lot of planning up front. And I'm saying this because it's nothing you can badge on the end of it. If your drawings are built in such a way, and I do review drawings for people, it's a part of our business is going, so we can do that remotely. I can do it where you're like, it's like, if I see the blueprints, I can go, oh no, not here, here, and here, and here. We got some issues, red flags all the way, or some areas of caution in terms of how things are built or designed or framed or materials used. Once the plans are, it's kind of almost like too late at that. It's too late once it's built. Once you've paid for plans, you can get them modified, but the design's essentially finalized. So it means going back to the drawing board. If you didn't have these insightful conversations with somebody that had energy or high performance modeling up front with the designer, it does mean an undoing step. It's not too late at the plan stage, but it is too late once construction starts to go patch on energy efficiency to a high caliber level. You can still do it, and I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying be aware. It requires planning up front, and an experienced builder that understands energy efficiency in homes should be able to look at the plans you had drawn up and understand whether or not it was designed with energy efficiency in mind or whether it wasn't. And if it wasn't, they should be able to point that out to you pretty quickly. And this is like an ace up the sleeve interview somebody. It's like, hey, yeah, are you into high performance buildings as a builder? Yeah, builder, I'm really good at this. Perfect. Hey, what do you think of these set of plans? Are they buildable, or is there going to be any challenges? And if they can't kind of flip through it and go, this is totally buildable, or oh my goodness, no way. Like, if you want me to build you a high performance home, we really need to reconsider the way this was designed, because I can't do it with this wall assembly here and whatnot. So that should be accessible and easily identifiable from an experienced trade. Looking at traditional drawings, and there's a word of caution if you're a designer. I see a lot of low caliber designs that come through in terms of wall assembly construction. They look great on the outside. Carpet peel might be awesome, and clients might love that you specified granite countertops, but we need to move away from polyethylene and 2x6s filled with pink insulation with OSB on the outside. Like, let's move away. I've done other videos on that, so I won't bark at it here, but just saying. So here it is. I won't drag it out any longer. How do you choose a builder that's right for you? Emphasis on communication, and here's their credibility piece, and then see where generally you fit once you've oriented yourself. Hopefully you have a method to approach different builders and see if it's truly going to be the right fit for you. All the best on your new home, and talk to you again soon.